Welcome, everybody. My name is Laura Rebecca. I am a tutor here at Take Lessons, and today's webinar is Script Annotation for Actors. So script annotation, why is it important? I'm about to tell you all about that. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, script annotation. Let's talk about that for a second. So script annotation is something that actors do in order to prepare for a role. Now, a lot of people think that actors who are good at what they do are just simply really, really talented. And it's true, talent does have a lot to do with it. But like any art form or anything that's not an art form, you have to practice your craft. You have to practice to be good at it. You know, a lot of actors would love for you to think, especially actors who are successful in entertainment, they'd love for you to think that they just walk onto a movie set or walk onto a stage and they just deliver and they're just brilliant at it. And that might be true to some extent, but what they don't tell you is that they spend a lot of time preparing for a role. So it's just as much technique as it is talent, just like a musician who practices their instrument, or a painter or an illustrator who practices what they do. So here are some of the reasons why script annotation is a really, really useful tool for actors. All right. For one thing, it helps the actor understand a little bit more about the character. It really kind of helps the actor get to the core of who the character is. You know, when you read a play, it's kind of hard, like when you read anything that's written by an author, it's kind of hard to know what the author or the playwright intended when they wrote the character. All you have to go on, you really only have three things to go on: what the character says, what other characters say about the character, and what the character does. But you can't really get into the character's head, but one way to get a little closer to that is through annotating the script. It also helps the actor's performance to be more believable. So when you see an actor rather, play a character, and they've done their homework, they've gotten underneath the text, they seem to be a lot more believable when you see their performance. It just has a little bit more depth to it. You know, it's like when you write a paper for school and you do a lot of research. You know, no matter how good of a writer you are, if you do your research, it's that much more convincing to the reader. Same thing with an actor's performance. Another thing that is really useful, and I can speak personally from performances I've done, script annotation helps you memorize the script better. It definitely is helpful, especially with long monologues if you're struggling to memorize. And for years and years when I've taught theater, actors have always asked me, what can I do to memorize my lines? It's so hard. Well, there are lots of different ways to memorize your lines, but one way to help you integrate the meaning and make connections is through script annotation. So those are my three main reasons why you should take the time to do it. So there she is, the fantastic Meryl Streep. You know, when we think of actors that are really, really brilliant, Meryl Streep comes to mind, not only in film, but also on the stage. I had the good fortune of actually seeing her when she was first starting out. I saw her at the Brooklyn Academy of Music in the Cherry Orchard. Mind-blowing. She was really great. You even knew then she was going to be something special. So why do people rave about Meryl Streep, for example? Well, the reason is because she's really believable as an actor in her roles. When you see her, if you look at the different different images here, there's in the center, there's her performance in The Devil Wears Prada, where she was so convincing as the mean boss. There was her performance as Margaret Thatcher. There was her performance in Sophie's Choice. All these different characters were so different from one another. Why don't we do this? As a quick exercise, please type in the chat the name of an actor that you really, really admire. If there's an actor, film or stage or television actor that you really like, type their name in the chat. Let's see what your answers are. I love Meryl Streep. I love Viola Davis, is brilliant. Let's see, I love Denzel Washington. These are actors that really, really know how to get deep into their characters. Laura Linney. Laura Linney's great. Oh yeah, she was in, I'm blanking out, the Netflix series Ozark, right? Killer in Ozark. She's just, so many layers there. Emma Watson, yeah, Jackie, for sure. Mr. Bean. Okay, so let's move on, because I know our time is limited together, so we could talk all day about great performances that we love. Let's talk a little bit about what the annotations are. So there are actually five different parts of script annotation. Now, I just want to be clear, friends, we're going to focus on 4 of these today. I do want to mention all 5 parts of annotation because it's important for you to know. I don't want you to walk away from this webinar thinking, you know, Laura didn't tell me everything. She didn't tell me about blocking. We're going to talk about intention, action, subtext, and beats. We're not going to talk much about blocking today just because blocking is really something you're going to get from the director. Of all of these things, the one that you're going to get the most from the director is blocking. And if you didn't know, blocking is, hi Christine, welcome. Blocking is the term we give to the movements you make on stage. So we won't talk too much about that, but that is something you do right in your script. So annotation, the word annotation means to notate, to make notes in your script, and that is one part of the notes that you make. But I'm talking about the annotations that you're going to make coming from you and your study of the character. So let's talk about the first one, intention. Come on, man, there we go. All right, so intention. Your intention is your overall goal in the scene. For example, I'm sure all of you have taken a high school English class, or maybe even a college English class, and you've learned about essay writing. Now, what do we call the sentence in an essay? You can write this in the chat if you'd like to participate. What do we call the sentence in the essay that has the main idea of the essay? Yes, the answer is thesis, the thesis, right? So the thesis has the main idea, which means that in the essay, everything that comes after refers back to the thesis. Now, take this concept, shift it to acting. That is what your intention is. Your intention is like the thesis statement. Everything you do in the scene is feeding back to the intention. So what you have to do, friends, when you're in a scene is read through the whole scene and ask yourself, what is my main goal in the entire scene? The main goal in the scene. I want to convince him I love him. That could be an example. I want to persuade the jury. I want to caution this character against a foolish decision. All examples of intention. Now, you would write the intention at the very top of the page, sort of like a thesis sentence. You write the intention at the top of the page. So that's the easy part. So you have to kind of read through the whole thing to get the intention. That's why a lot of people, when they write essays, they write the essay and they go back and they write the thesis sentence later. And if you don't do that, that's a little pro tip, a little bonus tip about writing. Okay, so let's talk about action. Okay, action is like, it's the little subsections of the thesis. So now if you take your thesis and you break it down moment by moment, that's the action. Action is always stated as I want. I want him to listen. I want this cartel guy not to shoot me. I want to make sure that she goes away. I want to make sure I get hired. I want to kill him. I want to figure this out. I want to change the subject. These are all examples of action. So an action changes every 3 to 4 lines, maybe even less. Sometimes the action changes from line to line, what the actor wants the character wants in a given moment. I know this is kind of hard to understand in out of context, but when we look at our passage, you'll see. But just think of it this way. The action is a subsection of the intention. So far, so good? Let's move on. You'll see when we get to it. Now, this is the fun part. What I really love to talk about subtext. Subtext is what your character's actually thinking in a given moment. Now, this is very hard. It's like this. If someone were to say to you, oh, nice to see you. Do you really believe that I'm happy to see you? No, because the subtext is, oh no, you again. So that's the subtext. And it's very easy to confuse subtext and action, but they're different. Subtext is like word for word what they're thinking. And I have a really good example here, one of my favorite examples, because this is a scene that is an example of how much is not being said. This is a scene from the movie No Country for Old Men, and it's one of my all-time favorites. And that's the link. In the coin toss scene, the clerk, as you could see from the image, he kept saying, well, I gotta close now. And the other character said, what time do you close? And you could tell from the tension in the scene that the subtext was, I close, and it was in the middle of the day. And why would he be saying in the middle of the day, we close now? Of course he doesn't close now, but he's like, oh no, we got to close now. The storekeeper is trying to get this guy out. But the hitman is saying, what time can I come back to kill you? And then when he says we close now, he says, now is not a time. What time do you close? He becomes more and more threatening. So the subtext here, not to hope we didn't distract from the lesson, the subtext here is so much more than just what the words are saying. So you can have a lot of fun with writing subtext. And you see really good actors who are really doing their homework, their page is filled with, written in pencil, all the different things the character's thinking. Could be a lot of fun. All right, let's go on to beats now. So moving on. Beats. Why are these units called beats? Well, there's a theory. The theory that units of acting are called beats is because one of the world's most famous acting teachers, he's actually considered the father of modern acting technique, a Russian teacher named Konstantin Stanislavski. When he came to the United States and he taught workshops to actors in the United States, he spoke English with a very heavy Russian accent. And he was saying bits of action, but he pronounced it as beats. These are beats of action, he said in his Russian accent. So the actors, the American actors said, oh yes, beats, yes, like beats, like rhythmic beats, which can be another interpretation. But in any case, whether you pronounce it beats or bits, what they are units of action. So moving on to our project today, our part of the lesson, our interactive part of the lesson, is we're going to be taking this very famous Shakespearean monologue, which is Viola's ring speech. One of the things that's great about the monologues of Shakespeare is that Shakespeare's monologues, or soliloquies as they were, are almost like an entire play or scene in themselves. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the character goes through a whole range of emotions in this one speech. Now, spoiler alert, one of the reasons why Shakespeare put these long speeches in his plays, we've thought for so many years that it was to develop the character, which it did. A lot of times it was to cover a costume change. I know, big spoiler alert. Yeah, costume change, that's why, or a scene change. But in any case, he made good use of that time to develop the character. So we have another link here, and this link is just from a scene for Twelfth Night. But we're going to get right into it. So folks, let's get right into this scene. And so what we're going to do is wherever we have a unit of action, we're going to make a slash mark, a different beat. Okay, so let's do it. Now, in your script, when you go to that Google Docs link, here's where I'd like you to put your annotations. Now, like I said before, your intention goes at the top. Remember, that's the thesis statement. That's the main idea. The action goes on the left, and the subtext goes in the right, and the beats are written right in the text. All right, and I'm going to skip blocking for a moment. By the way, pro tip, always write your annotations in pencil because your director may give you a different direction. Your director might tell you a different motivation in each moment of the scene. And also, you might change your mind. Once you get into rehearsal and you start working with another actor, you might think, oh, this is different than what I originally thought. So use a pencil so you can erase easily. Okay, so now we're going to go to Viola's ring speech. Okay, so let me first tell you a little bit. If you're not familiar with the play Twelfth Night, this is one of my favorite monologues, one of my favorite soliloquies. If, by the way, girls, ladies, if you're looking for a really good monologue for women, because there weren't a lot of female parts written in Shakespeare's plays, this is a great one. The irony is, and you must know that, surely that in Shakespeare's time, all the female parts were played by men. This is a female part where the character is masquerading as a man. So it was a male actor playing a woman masquerading as a man. Only in Shakespeare. Viola was shipwrecked with her brother Sebastian. She finds herself stranded after the shipwreck in an unfamiliar place. Now remember, back in the old days, you couldn't be a woman and just be kind of roaming around the place. You can't just be what they call unescorted. So just partly for her own safety, and also because she has to roam around and find her brother so they can be reunited, she dresses as a man. And this is something that happened a lot in Shakespeare's plays. There was not a lot, but there's a number of plays where they're called trouser roles, where they had to dress as men. Kind of funny. yeah, so she's trying to reunite herself with her brother. And so while she's dressed as a man, she gets a job. She gets a job as a page. A page is sort of like a little servant to a duke. The duke's name is Orsino. Well, bad luck for Viola. She finds out while she's working for him, she falls in love with him. It's crazy. Why that happens, I don't know. But she falls in love. She like develops this crazy crush on the Duke. Like she's obsessed with him. But of course, she can't reveal her feelings for him because she's pretending to be a dude. And you know, what if like that really makes him sick, or like he might kill her? I mean, who knows, right? It could end badly. So she can't reveal how she feels. Now, in the meantime, he is in love with this widow named Olivia. So he sends Viola, who's dressed as Cesario. Cesario is her guy name. He sends Cesario to give a letter to Olivia. And when he sends her, and if you look at the picture, you'll get an idea of what happens. So the gal on the left is Cesario. When she brings the letter to Olivia, Olivia falls in love with Cesario because Olivia thinks Cesario is a real live boy, which he's not. So, complication. Yeah. So what happens is after she delivers the letter, Olivia's servant, Malvolio, visits Cesario and gives her a ring. So that brings us to the speech. Okay, I know it's very. Are you keeping track? It's very complicated. Let's maybe take a look at the speech, and you'll see what I mean. I'm going to read through the whole speech for you, and you're going to tell me what the intention is. I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Fortune forbid my outside have not charmed her. She made good view of me. Indeed, so much that sure methought her eyes had lost her tongue, for she did speak and start distractedly. She loves me, sure. The cunning of her passion invites me in this churlish messenger. None of my lord's ring, why he sent her none. I am the man. If it be so as 'tis, poor lady, she would better love a dream. Disguise, I see thou art of wickedness, wherein the pregnant enemy does much. How easy it is for the proper false in women's waxen hearts to set their forms. Alas, our frailty is the cause, not we. For such as we are made of, such we be. How of this sage? My master loves her dearly, and I, poor monster, fond as much on him, and she, mistaken, seems to dote on me. What will become of this? As I am man, my state is desperate for my master's love. As I am woman, now alas the day, what thriftless sigh shall poor Olivia breathe? Oh, time, thou must untangle this, not I. It is too hard a knot for me to untie. Okay, so I know the language is not something we're used to, but did you get a general idea of the main idea of this speech? What is Viola trying to do in this speech? Now, remember, the intention is like a thesis statement, so you have to summarize. So the summary is to figure her way out, analyze her options. So her intention, I'm going to write this on the top now. Hopefully you can see my writing. To figure this out. That's her intention, to figure this out, right? Because look, the very first line is a question. I left no ring with her. What means this lady? So again, Olivia's servant just handed her a ring. And she's like, I didn't leave her a ring. What's she talking about? So remember now, we have the intention. We're going to put the action on the left, the subtext on the right. Okay. So the action in the first line is also to figure out why he visited. The subtext is, what the heck did she send me this for? So do you see the difference? See how the action is a little bit different from the subtext? So her action is, let me try to figure this out. The subtext is, what means this? What the heck is she talking about? All right. Now, look at the second line. Fortune forbid my outside have not charmed her. Now I'm going to ask you, what does this line mean? What is the action of this line? Fortune forbid my outside have not charmed her. I know it's fancy Elizabethan language, but I think you can figure it out. What do you think is the outside? Here, I'll tell you what. Here's the outside, the fake mustache. Yeah, exactly. Yes, physical body. So she's saying because we know this is something called dramatic irony. The dramatic irony. Let me write this down so you know. Dramatic irony is when the audience knows something that the characters don't. We, the audience, know that Viola is really a girl. We know because she's talking right to us. The other characters don't know that, but we know that. So she's saying to us, fortune forbid my outside, my costume has not charmed her. So the action is I want to guess why. Remember, it has to be stated in I want. I should have put that here. Sorry, guys. I want to guess why. The subtext here is, wouldn't it be funny if she really believed I was a dude? So she's saying, fortune forbid my outside have not charmed her. Right? Charmed means to like seduce her. But then she says, she made good view of me, indeed so much that sure methought her eyes had lost her tongue, for she did speak and starts distractedly. So now, look at this. This little cluster of 3 lines. What is she saying here? What is the subtext here? What happened when Olivia met Viola? She fell in love at first sight, exactly. So she's saying, I didn't give her a ring. Wouldn't it be funny if she really thought I was a guy? But you know what? Actually, when she saw me, she was kind of like stuttering and looking me up and down. So she's starting to figure it out. She's like replaying the scene in her head. And yes, Olivia was speechless. You're right, Jackie. Exactly. Olivia was speechless. So I'm going to stop here and back up a little bit. So now we can start to put in the beats. Now the beats, I'm going to make the beats a different color here. Let me pick a different color here. Let me pick purple for the beats. All right. So now where would we put the beats? Go back to the top. I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Fortune forbid my outside have not charmed her. She made good view of me, indeed so much. So now let's go back. Where does it change action? Where would I put the beat mark? So I would put it here. So actors do this throughout the whole passage. I know this is very time consuming and laborious, but once you start doing this, it'll become easier and easier, and you can do it more quickly. What some actors do is they read through the speech, and sometimes they put the beats in first, and then they break down the action, but it's worth the time. So for example, I could do this. I could say, I left no ring with her. What means this lady? Fortune forbid my outside have not charmed her. So she's, So wouldn't it be funny if she thought it was a guy? And then she's like, oh, wait, hold up. She was looking me up and down. She couldn't really talk. Oh my gosh, she loves me. No wonder. Churlish messenger is the servant. So that's why she sent the guy. That's why she sent Malvolio, because she loves me. None of my lord's ring, why he sent her none. I am the man. Oh man, if this be so as 'tis, poor lady, she were better love a dream, because I'm not really a guy. So we'll put another beat mark here. Disguise, I see thou art a wickedness. So now she finally has figured it out. Disguise, my camouflage costume, I'm going to have to say costume, is the reason. I was too good at my costume. She's saying, oh no, disguise, I see your wickedness, how easy it is for the proper fault in women's waxen hearts to set their forms. Alas, our frailty is the cause, not we, for such as we are made of, such we be. So what she's saying here, sorry, I'm going to plow through it, is she's saying, you know what? It's because we're women. It's because we're so drawn by what we see. So in a way, what she's saying here is, I can sympathize with her. I can sympathize with her because I have the same problem with my attraction to my master. Okay, so then she moves on to how will this fadge? Like, I want to know how this will end up. How will this fadge? Fadge is sort of an old word meaning how is it going to turn out? Okay, so now she's saying my master loves her dearly. I, poor monster, she's calling herself a monster because of her costume, fond as much on him, and she mistaken seems to dote on me. She repeats, what will become of this? As I am man, my state is desperate for my master's love. As I am woman, now alas the day, what thriftless sigh shall poor Olivia breathe? It's a mess. And she breaks down the mess. So we'll put, what's the last beat mark I can put in this speech? I'll give you a hint. I know this is a really tough question, especially if this is the first time you're doing it. I'll give you a hint. Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, you probably put the last beat mark at the end of the passage, Christine. I think you're probably right about that. So the second to last beat mark. In all of Shakespeare's monologues or soliloquies, we call them soliloquies because they're usually breaking the fourth wall, talking directly to the audience. In all of his soliloquies, the last two lines are called a couplet. And they're called a couplet because they rhyme. Notice how it says not I and untie. Those are rhyming sentences because they contain a complete thought. So I'll give you the answer. The answer is the last beat mark comes here, or it could come before O time, because this is the last complete thought. And the last complete thought, this is the last thing I'm gonna make this a little bit neater, you guys. So this last couplet, I'm gonna ask you to write in the chat the last piece of action, because it's the last beat. Remember, these little slash marks are a beat, and a beat is a unit of action. The last action and the last subtext. And remember, it's got to refer back to the intention, which is to figure this out. The action is, I want to leave this to time. I want to let time sort it out. Yes, I'm leaving this to time. I'm letting time fix this. I'm letting, the action is, I want to just not stress out about it because I can't. So good for the action. Now, who can tell me what the subtext is? The subtext is what she's really thinking. And you can put this in modern language. It's too hard of a problem, yeah. She's basically saying, and my own stitch. I literally can't. Right? She's like, time, I just can't deal right now. I just have to go on. I just have to keep up the facade, keep pretending to be a guy, not try to figure this out because this is way beyond my powers. All right. So here's what I'm going to leave you with, everybody. Here's what I'm going to leave you with. Does this make sense to you? Super helpful? It takes practice. It definitely takes practice. All right, here's what I'm going to do. For the last few minutes of thank you, Angine. For a little bit. It's okay, Christine. I have to tell you, it took me years and years to figure this out. It took me years for this to fadge in my brain. And that's my profile. Please, if you'd like to learn more about how to do this, come take a lesson with me at takelessons.com. Gotta go. Thank you so much for your attention. Thanks for your patience. Sorry about the technical problems. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to get the heck out of here because you guys are awesome. Thank you.